When it comes to ripping off Americans, no industry does it better than Big Pharma. And now we've learned that it isn't just price gouging that's taking place. Big Pharma has joined the ranks of other corporate giants by trying to avoid paying any taxes to the U.S. government. Joining me now to talk about this is Michael Burg. Michael, Big Pharma never ceases to amaze me. They've always got some kind of new plan on how they're just going to rip everybody off. Usually it is with the price gouging on the price of pharmaceuticals. But now it's, you know what? We're going to stick it to Uncle Sam. Tell us about what's happening right now with Pfizer and their whole tax evasion scheme here.
Well, they've been talking about it for years. First of all, you know, our audience ought to understand that these pharmaceutical companies truly are unpatriotic. Here we are in a tremendous deficit, and what are they doing? They're trying to not pay taxes. Every American, like it or not, nobody likes paying, but we have an obligation so we can fix our infrastructure, so we can make sure that we're able to pay off our debt. And what do? They say, let's find a company somewhere else, in this case in Ireland, where we can avoid paying billions of dollars in taxes, even though we're making billions of dollars from selling pharmaceutical drugs. And that's what it's all about. It's a scam. And I'll tell you why it's a scam, but it is just a big scam. They're just lying to the American public, and they're trying to keep from paying taxes.
And, you know, with this whole Ireland thing that they're doing, basically, if I have this right, I think they're trying to merge with this little company over in Ireland, and then that's going to be home base. So then they say, look, we're not American anymore. We're an Irish company. We're not American. Right. And that's true. You know what? They're not American, as you pointed out, because it is an American's duty to pay these taxes. That's what keeps our government running. That's what keeps the FDA alive, so that they can stick it to Big Pharma, test their products, so we know they're not going to be out there killing us every day, even though right now the FDA is wholly owned by Big Pharma. So what happens if this goes through, if Pfizer becomes an Irish company?
Well, first of all, they can claim their home base is in Ireland, but let's talk about why they did it, the reality of it. The reality is they're buying this company because it owns the product Botox. They want to get in another blockbuster drug. It's what they did with Warner Lambert. That's how they got Lipitor. This company is absolutely the most un-American company there is, even though they're the largest pharma in the world. Because what they do is they pretend like they're actually spending a lot of money on R&D. They may spend some money on R&D, but this company has a history of buying other companies to find their drugs. This is a company that basically spent it's approximately I think $87 billion in buybacks and almost $90 billion in dividends. Not to mention their CEO this last year got over $22 million in direct compensation. So what they're really doing is they're saying, look, we're no longer in the pharma business. What we're in is the acquisition business. We're going to acquire these companies. They tried to acquire AstraZeneca. They were not able to do it. They acquired Warner Lambert. They've now acquiring this Irish company again for the Botox product. And what they do is they pretend that really they need these tax breaks for research and development. But if you look at what they really spend, they spend over 5 times the amount of money in marketing than they do in R&D. So it's a scam. And you know what's the American public should demand that these companies pay their fair share of taxes. Think about this. We're going after the little guy, the guy who makes $30,000 a year, the guy who makes $50,000 a year. And what this company does and what these right-wingers and anti-tax people are saying, oh, the government's after you. The government is taking more than they should. Well, the reason they're going after them and the reason people may be paying higher rates than they should is because corporations like Pfizer are paying practically nothing. Billions and billions of dollars of revenue from drugs being sold in this country, not to mention the price gouging that's going on in this country. And one other thing that people don't understand is that under the system that exists in this country, believe it or not, every other country, pharmaceutical companies have to discount their drugs for the government. Here, there is no discount for Medicare. There is no discount for Medicaid. That is outrageous when a company is making billions and billions and billions of dollars in profit. So what do we really have here? We have a company that is basically lying to the American public, claiming that somehow the tax burden here is so great that they need to go overseas and put their headquarters there. The truth is, if them and other pharmaceutical companies and other giant corporations would pay their fair share, just their fair share, we could alleviate the debt on the middle class and alleviate our debt in the world, alleviate the tax to the middle class, because when you have a company that's making billions, if they're paying their fair share, think how many people making $30,000 can get relief from that. So the whole thing is upside down.
And the system is rigged to benefit those corporations. And I think what's interesting, you talked about this, they're spending about 5 times more on marketing than they are on research and development. And a large part of that, where we can really see the contrast here is when we look at what they pay a scientist that helps develop these drugs versus what they pay a sales rep who goes out and sells these drugs. I think
even beyond that, every commercial you see on television today, and that's why there is a commercial for some pharmaceutical drug.
Yeah.
You can't get away from it, and that's cost money to have those national commercials. It costs hundreds of millions of dollars, and so what they want to do is they want to basically continue to spend that money and market and market and market and market and confuse the American people. They don't even tell the truth in many cases about the side effects that they know about. And they have people dancing through the flowers and how wonderful this drug is going to be. In the meantime, some person on the bottom is saying very fast, you could die, you could get a stroke, you could have a heart attack, your ears could fall off, you could be bleeding through your nose. But in the meantime, because we're so visual, they know, and they've done testing, that people are not going to be hearing the warnings. They're going to see that person dancing through the flowers. It's obscene and it's dead wrong, and we ought to stop it.
And one of the things they do in those ads too, those studies have shown, is that when they're talking about the great benefits of the drug, they typically speak at a 6th or 7th grade level. Now, when they're talking about the warnings, they're speaking on a collegiate level. So most Americans, unfortunately, they literally can't understand what's being said because it's scientific jargon and just kind of this mumbo jumbo that they don't want them to understand, because they don't want to know that, hey, not only did we create this disease, restless leg syndrome, but if you take the pill to make your legs stop moving at night, you might end up dying. But you know what? You might get a good night's sleep every now and then. That's how ridiculous this has become. I mean, look, the pharmaceutical industry, they do create products that save lives. They do. Don't get me wrong on that. But they're also in the business of creating new diseases and curing those new diseases and then making billions of dollars in profits, parking it offshore over in Ireland or the Cayman Islands or wherever it is now. They don't want to give back. They want money. They don't care about disease. That's the bottom line.
It's run by Wall Street. Their priorities are wrong. We used to have drug companies in this country, and there are still some around the world that really are there to try to help people be healthier, to actually have drugs that are going to save people's lives and make them better. While there's still a component of that, now it's driven by Wall Street. It's all about profit in the stock. It's all about the CEO making hundreds of millions of dollars if you include their stock options. It's about the company not paying taxes. It's about basically making as much money as they can. And who's paying for that? Who are the ones who are being hurt? It's the American people. It's the United States government in terms of unable to get taxes. And it's also the other people are getting hurt, or people are getting hurt by their drugs because they're not always completely honest about the adverse effects and the side effects. The problem is, again, that they control Congress because of all the money they give. They control the media, all the money they give for advertisements. So we're not hearing, except from certain groups, the truth about what's going on. And I think this is such an important story. And I would hope that everyone who is watching or listening, stands up and says, as a network, we're not going to take it anymore. Pay your fair share. Let's stop this. Let's stop this greed that's just outrageous.
And that's why this next year's election is going to be so important, because we do have some candidates out there right now. Maybe they'll survive the primaries, maybe they won't, but they're talking about this, and that is so important because those are the very few voices in positions of power that are addressing this issue. And Michael Burg, thank you for telling us this story. Have a wonderful new year.
Well, thank you very much.